Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and shit.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is we'll do it live. Time goes in, time goes out. Never miss communication.
It's over 9,000. My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there.
Don't face me, bro. It's a trap. I'm a firing believer. Time to Hey, Charlie, wake up. Oh, God, oh, man.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and all those other wonderful places on the internet such as Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud and of course our own website. I am Cian and once again we have Darragh here with us. How are you doing this week, Darragh?
Hi, I am exhausted but I'm also really happy. The Ducks have made the second round of the playoffs. It's fantastic. Nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs. Nobody thought they were going to do so well this year. It's been a really good year for the Ducks. So last night, they beat the Oilers 5-2 or 5-3 and went 4-2 in the series. So they're on to the finals, which means there's a very high possibility I could end up at a game in about a week and a bit. So hopefully that happens. I am ecstatic.
I am going to presume you're talking about hockey and not some sort of new weird sport I haven't heard of.
No, it's but here's the weird thing, right? So follow on from what we talked about last week, and I won't go too much into it. Definitely that segment is going up, folks. So if this is your first time listening to us on Phoenix or indeed on YouTube, please go back and check it out. We actually clip up segments and put up shorts and all that kind of good stuff as well up on YouTube. And you can check it out. You just go back on Spotify. But yeah, man, like the amount of people this week that I've just either found or after getting super into hockey, or, you know, I was working an event this week and there were a bunch of people from Canada and they were horrified that there was no rink in the Republic. They just couldn't believe it. They were just like, my God, this is terrible. You could see it in their face that they nearly wanted to leave the country. So yeah, it was wild. But yeah, like we're smack bang in the middle of playoff season. So what happens is there's two games of 7, so 2 best of 7, and then after that there's the Stanley Cup, which is the final best of 7 from the other team. So it's like 7 games, and then whoever wins the best of that wins.
Well, I think that is another tick in the box for setting up a separate podcast exclusively on the ups and downs and hit sideways of hockey. Because, yes, I think we did mention it last week. It is sort of taking over all the conversations I have with casual friends of mine as well.
And that's it. And I mean, like, it just kind of happens. Like, there's, you know, it's so funny when we were talking about it and you were like, Darragh, this hockey thing, it's like, is that for real or whatever? And what you fail to realize, because you're only exposed to it once, is once someone starts watching it and gets into it, it just slowly takes over their life. They start watching it and then they seek it out in like a local setting and then they end up trying to play it. And some end up actually playing it. And it just kind of grows from there. So it is one of those sports that once it kind of gets its hooks in, doesn't really let go.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but you did describe it in the most sinister terms.
But that's what happens. They're not, to be fair, anyone who I've talked to has had the same thing. They're like, it just consumes you. Like, I was in Belfast yesterday and I was working, but then afterwards I went over and went to the Belfast Giants gear style. So basically at the end of the season, most teams have a bunch of gear left over, like, you know, skates, pads, some gloves, a lot of jerseys, whatever. And I mean, I wasn't one of the first people in, but I had to work. So I wasn't early, but I wasn't late, you know? And by the time I was leaving, it was fully stocked when I went in. But yeah, when I was leaving, the place was picked clean. Like, you know, it was just like a horde of Ravengers just went in and pulled the place apart. You know, it was wild, and that's just happening. And you know, when you go to these events again, like you see more and more people who from all walks of life. Like, there's no set hockey fan. You know, it's like pretty much everybody. It's one of the most unusual groups of people that you'll see, and not in what I mean by that is, like, when you think of a sporting event, you have a specific group of people in mind, but it's not like that at all. It's kind of like, I don't know, the only other place that I've seen the diversity in groups of people going to games, kind of like a Comic-Con thing. You know, it's like that where you see like all different walks of life of people, and there is a lot of crossover in that sense as well, where like, you know, I remember when we were going to, like, even before we started doing Comic Cons, like for the show and stuff, there were, you know, it wasn't really that busy, and then it got really, really busy, and then by the time we were doing Comic Cons, it was absolutely jammers. So I think that's what kind of happens, you know, everything has its like early phase, and then it, you know, explodes in popularity, and then it kind of hits that ebb and flow. And I think not only are we hitting that with Comic Cons, but we're hitting that with like hockey as well. So it's definitely an interesting thing, because I mean, you're not the only one to say to me, and more people that I interact with, again, the conversation just kind of turns to hockey, or they know why I like it, and it's just like, hey, and I'm just like, wow, okay. So I for one welcome our new hockey overlords.
Well, I will be honest, I have no strong feelings on hockey, but I will monitor its gradual takeover of Irish culture,
I'll be honest with
week
you,
by week.
Until you go to one. That is for me, like, for me, I think that's the big turning point. You know, like, a lot of people go to them in the UK and Ireland because, well, not in Ireland, because, you know what I mean? The Northern Ireland, not Republic, because we don't have a rink, as said, but like, the game is 25 quid. You know, it's like, that's a very cheap night. The cinema is nearly that price. You know, actually, depending on which cinema you go to, cinema is that price. You know, like, I have spent €50 on a hockey game for two people, and I've spent €90 going to the cinema for two people. So, you know, just saying, folks. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about hockey. We have a lot to get through, Cian. Where are we going?
All right. Well, this is going to be a very TV-centric episode because our first thing we're going to be covering is I thought this was a reboot, but it's more of a kind of a one-off revisitation. Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair.
The term is called legacy
Sorry?
Sequel, I've heard. That's the term.
See, we're going to get into that in a few minutes, but I wouldn't call this a typical example of that either.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, basically the long and short of it is that they've gathered most of the original actors back. They're picking up their stories where they are, where the kids are all adults, obviously. Kind of some of them are parents now, and basically the hook of it is that Malcolm, who has been avoiding his family for the better part of like possibly even 2 decades, so that he can live a wholesome life, is now being dragged back into the family because of a big anniversary event that Lois and Hal are throwing. Now, you flagged this before we started kind of talking about the show, like the new show, I should say. But my memory of Malcolm in the Middle is something that is strong in my memory as The Simpsons. It was always the thing. It was like 6:30 to 7:30. You got your new Simpsons and you got your new episode of Malcolm. Is Malcolm in the Middle something you kind of grew up with?
Yeah, I always hated Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, I just couldn't stand it. You know who it was? Like, since I've grown up, I've gotten to like it a bit more, and I'm actually looking forward to watching this reboot sequel or whatever, because I haven't seen it yet. But I kind of know what happens, and it looks pretty good. I really hated Frankie Muniz as a kid. Because you're very similar.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. If you'd like to follow us on our socials, we'll be back next week. Bye.
No, like, because when you're similar in age, you're just like, I kind of hate that guy. But I don't really know why. I just.
Well, to be fair, Malcolm also hates Malcolm.
Yeah, that's true. But then, like, as the show kind of progressed, because as I said, yeah, it would be on like at 6 o'clock you'd watch The Simpsons on RT2 or Channel 4. Then it'd be Malcolm in the Middle. Then you'd watch more Simpsons on Sky. So that's that's kind of how it was,
Or maybe a few drama, but something. That was the block. Like.
Yeah, it was in and around that, or sometimes Malcolm in the Middle would be on after The Simpsons or whatever. It'd be around that block. But yeah, you are right. It would be. And then sometimes you'd get like, what was it, Brainiac Science Abuse or whatever, they kind of throw it in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the point is, it belongs to an era of TV that doesn't kind of exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So because of that, I ended up giving it more of a chance than, let's say, I would have. And you're right, like, doing that with TV now, or with shows, see, even calling it TV now is a bit silly, but doing it now with, like, shows is actually quite difficult, because the only way you're going to watch, for, like, The Acolyte, or... what was the show that Kev liked that was terrible? Miss Marvel or Miss Marvel, right? Like, if that was still on and you were like, okay, look, I want to watch The Simpsons, I'll watch this Miss Marvel thing and give it a chance. You don't really do that now, because it's like, right, if you watch it once and you're like, that's bad, you're just not going to watch it again. And I'm glad I gave Malcolm in the Middle more of a chance and stuck with it as they grew and the show grew, because I really, really like Francis. I thought he was like the best part of the show.
He was my favorite too.
Yeah,
him and his misadventures. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always I really, really enjoyed that character. And then, you know, when I started watching it again as an adult, I really, really enjoyed Hal and Lois's relationship. I thought it was lovely. So again, I still do find Malcolm to be the most annoying person on the planet, but I learned to appreciate what the show was going for. And I think as a character piece, as a study of like a crazy family thing, kind of like The Simpsons was supposed to, or was, and now is not really anymore. It's supposed to be. I think it kind of nailed it really, really well. So, but yeah, initially I hated Malcolm in the Middle, but definitely glad I stuck with it.
Absolutely. And as well as like the characters being great and well acted, obviously Bryan Cranston comes from this show. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It also, perhaps I might not have caught this on any other show, but certainly in my memory, it was the first of what I would call the sort of cinematic comedies, you know, where it's not like a laugh track audience flat sitcom-y type thing. It was very energetic. There was always like loads of like complex sequences in every episode, like, you know, like one whole episode where say Reese and Malcolm are having a feud and we keep rewinding back in time to find out how it started and all that. That's kind of become the norm now with the likes of Derry Girls. I'm going to talk about Big Mood in a few minutes as well. But I am in my memory, it was the first of those really creatively filmed regular TV comedies, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. You know, that's what I'm saying to you. There's so much that the show did. I think it's funny because it's of its time and it's ahead of its time, kind of simultaneously, right? And that is one of it where you'd watch a Nickelodeon comedy, let's say, right? Because let's put it this way: when Malcolm in the Middle came out, we were still kids going into teenagehood or whatever.
Keenan and Kel's, your Amanda shows, your every which one. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So you'd watch those kind of things and that's what you'd be used to. And then when you swap over to Malcolm in the Middle, it was like, oh, okay. You know, you're like, oh, this is like The Simpsons. This is like Futurama. It's a comedy, but you're not like removing the laugh track away from a comedy is a very weird thing. Even still, like you watch Big Bang Theory if you want to punish yourself, and every 2 minutes is like a laugh track, and it's still such an easy thing for them to do, and you can kind of see why they do it, because it's like, right, it fills the space, it gives the illusion that it's funny. But when you're watching, I think with Malcolm in the Middle, it disarmed a lot of people, because it's one of those things where you don't really know what to expect. And I think that's what kind of pushed me away from it. I was like, okay, you know, it's not really my thing. And then when you get older, you're like, okay, this is what they're actually trying to do. And then you're right, it kind of set the tone, because it had like not only, you know, its own run, which grew to being, you know, a generational experience for a lot of people. And I mean, again, even for me, I went from someone who really did not like the show to genuinely really liking the show near the end of it. You know, it was really, really good. But then you have like The Middle, and you have Modern Family and stuff like that, where they were trying to do the Malcolm in the Middle as well, to lesser or better extents, you know, and Scrubs as well. I mean, kind of, if you look at...
Oh, Scrubs was very creative and ambitious and like zany.
Yeah, but if you see kind of how that kind of those shows and Scrubs picked up that mantle and kind of grew with you, because if you look at it again, the Skyblock evolved to being The Simpsons and Scrubs, you know, but Modern Family stuff will be there as well. So again, it definitely started this move towards modernization of the family sitcom to being like the blueprint for successful sitcoms for years. And it's funny, there was a video I saw there, I didn't watch it, but I was sticking through, and it's like Friends, the most overrated sitcom of all time. And I do believe that's true. Like, Friends has not aged well for many reasons. Friends, not to get sidetracked, but Friends is one of those shows where you watch it now and you cringe and you're like, man, these are the worst people. These are the worst people ever. They're all actually terrible. And when you're a kid, you obviously don't get the jokes. And of its time, like, it's very of its time. But even not digging into that kind of barrel of mess, it's more just like, as actual people, they're just the worst. But when you go back and watch Malcolm in the Middle, they weren't really that bad. Even Lois, she was just really normal and highly strung.
They were, but we're gonna, because the kind of the reboot, whatever you want to call it, kind of gets at the heart of this, which is that they are terrible people, but they also still love each other.
Exactly.
The two things exist simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
that's it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, that doesn't exist in Friends. Friends just punches down. I don't believe Malcolm in the Middle ever did that. It was, yeah.
No, and actually, I'm sorry to cut across you there, but you talk about being ahead of its time. Like, I can't think of another show from like the early 2000s where you had like, you know, a kid in a wheelchair with breathing difficulties as one of your main characters, you know? Or like the way kind of like the Few as They Are, the women were written in it, and like you had later on Dewey's like special class, which could have been very punching down. All the kids in that class were like really well-rounded, likable characters. So it's like, for all its aggro, Malcolm in the Middle was an incredibly kind show where it counted, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. It had a heart, and that's something that Friends never had. Scrubs does as well, but it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, if we're going to bring something, like, I think that's why, like, I know it wasn't the same thing, but even though Friends, the anniversary came out and we got the memes from it and stuff, and, you know, people still felt something, I don't think them doing more of the show would have been anything other than, oh, this is a bit cringe, everybody just wants a paycheck. You know, I think this was a much better suited for it, like a much better thing to be suited for it, so it was really, really good. I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it, and what I've seen so far is quite satisfying. And look, you can't really be upset with it. There's nothing to complain about.
Absolutely. Out of Friends, I would say I don't hate Friends. Friends is like, your point about the characters being awful is correct. I just think that there's some like selective filtering when you like it. Like, nobody minds like kind of what Joey gets up to and all that kind of stuff. I think it's like Friends was the last big kind of cameras pointed at a stage type show with an audience laughing in. Maybe Frasier, I know Seinfeld was a bit before that, but like all the likes of those and Will and Grace and all those, they were like big. They were the biggest thing in the world. And I think Friends was kind of the last one out the gate, ending in like 2004 for those. And I can't think of any other big shows like it that came out after that. I think Malcolm and stuff like Ally McBeal and Scrubs and all that kind of swept that type of comedy kind of under the rug a little bit.
You know what it is? It's the same analogy, but for a different reason, as what I'm going to say here. So, do you know why we got movies like Shark Tale and Minions and other referential
CGI ones, or
no, not even before that? I'm talking pop culture referential.
Oh, yeah.
That they give out to kids. Even before CGI or AI and that. Just the slop that set the tail for it. Do you know why? Shrek. Before Shrek came out, the last big movie that hit, that really blew up, and if you haven't seen it, you really should watch it, is The Prince of Egypt. That's an incredible movie, right? It's one of the, I would say it's the best animated movie not made by Disney, right? Hands down. Phenomenal film. Made by DreamWorks. A couple of months later, Shrek comes out. They realise, one, it's cheaper. Two, it's incredibly successful, and that set the tone for kids animation the past nearly 30 years.
Yeah, and if you want to look at Shrek, like, you know, a prototype Shrek that doesn't work, look at Ants with a Z.
Yeah, very much.
A Woody Allen movie aimed at children with Sylvester Stallone and all this weird grown-up stuff that isn't appropriate. Like, yeah, you know,
very
that's a miss the mark Shrek there.
Yeah, it's a very, very weird movie. But the point I'm making is something similar happened as well where they're like, right, it's one of those cultural moments where what came before just doesn't play anymore and wipes the slate clean. And that's what happened here as well. Like, it's Malcolm in the Middle, Scrubs, until Big Bang Theory had actually kind of reset what people thought sitcoms were and gave them some more value. But unfortunately, Big Bang Theory arrived and made the problem so much worse. I really dislike that show. I mean, I really dislike that show. Look, if you guys like Big Bang Theory, you know, awesome, that's cool. But I just very dislike that show. I would say in a couple of years, that's going to be looked upon like Friends. But you know what's funny? And it's actually unbelievable. Young Sheldon takes the road of Malcolm in the Middle. And that's so like the show. Like, when you're watching Young Sheldon, one, it's funnier. It's actually really funny. And it's funnier. But when you're watching it, it doesn't have a laugh track. It has the same kind of family dynamic. And you can actually ironically see a lot of the things that people criticize shows like The Big Bang Theory for being removed. And yeah, that should have been the big successful one. But often with these things, you don't really know what's going to go viral. So there we go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to dig us like 2 tangents back and get back to Malcolm in the Middle. Life is still unfair. So let me kind of take you through, because I don't want to spoil too much. It's only 4 episodes. You could knock it out like a film. But let me kind of take you through the premise of it. So Malcolm has it's picking up like 20 years after the original ending, because the original ended in 2006 with him going off to college. Since then, he has basically disowned his family kind of in a quiet, non-aggressive way. He kind of just acts too busy to come over and answer emails and that kind of stuff. He has a daughter now who is a teenager who he's raising on his own. And basically and he has a girlfriend now who he's trying desperately not to find out how crazy he is, because it turns out he's actually quite mild-mannered when the brothers and all aren't around to set him off. And basically, because Hal and Lois are having this big anniversary bash, which they've invited all of the brothers and sisters and all their friends to, he is being forced to come back into contact with them, which is causing him to revert to his original Malcolminess. And we kind of just get to find out where all the characters are at, kind of as adults further down the line. So here's one of the strange things. Malcolm is still doing his into camera little monologues and stuff, like as you would expect. I'm going to get the names up now. But his daughter, who is kind of having her own, Leah is the character's name, also has the ability to talk into the camera, directly to us, the audience. So we're getting quite kind of almost like a sort of second generation Malcolm character, while still having all those kind of typical ingredients and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really interesting in that way, because you have Malcolm and his new kind of family dynamic. But at the same time, it's kind of the joy of it is finding out where all of characters ended up. Because bar the actor who plays Dewey, who didn't want to return, and they recast him, kind of the joy of it is finding where they've ended up. As you'd expect, Dewey is like a famous musician traveling the world. Reese is the same, as you'd expect. Francis and Piama are still together. They're expecting a baby. And, it's really interesting because you kind of use the term, what was it? Legacy reboot earlier, was it?
Yeah, legacy reboot. Yeah, legacy reboot, yeah.
Yeah. So in any case, this one does a really nice job of, characters are still themselves, but they're not exactly the same. It's not like they are, literally the same as they were 20 years ago. Some characters are more well adjusted. Some characters have changed where they are in life, that kind of thing. But they still you can see them kind of trying to resist their original tendencies, which is kind of fun to play off. And the show is still as weird and zany as it ever was. I think, as you wouldn't be surprised by, Hal kind of, I'm trying not to give things away, and it's very difficult. Hal goes on a very
hold on. Folks, spoiler warning. Cian, please proceed.
Okay. Hal goes on a very straight... Basically, the instigating thing at the end of episode 1 of 4 is we find out that not only has Malcolm not been keeping touch with his family, they don't know, as in Hal and Lois, that he even had a kid. And the kid didn't know that Malcolm's parents were still alive. So all this stuff is coming out, and it's all dramatic. There's lots of feelings flying around, and Hal gets so affected by essentially kind of being cut out of all this that he ends up accidentally going on some sort of medically induced hallucination drug trip where he eats an entire bowl of edibles and that kind of stuff, where he is having a therapy session with himself. And so you've got all that kind of weird stuff going on. And then it mix into that. You also have all these new siblings we didn't know about, the baby from series 5 and 6, Jamie. He's grown up now and in the military. You have the new youngest kid, because the final episode of Malcolm, Lois is pregnant. They're non-binary. They're having a feud with Reese. You get sprinkling of all the guest characters, Hal's what would you call them? Barbershop singers? I'm not sure what genre of music they are. But it's really nicely paced. It sprinkles in all these returning characters gradually, and it never feels like it's throwing it in your face. Remember this, remember that, remember this, remember that. It's very nicely paced, but it's also dramatic where it needs to be. You said that your favorite was Francis.
Yes.
Right as Lois and Hal find out that they have a secret, granddaughter they never knew about. Him and Piama announce that they're pregnant for the first time. And as you would expect, the announcement gets swallowed by the drama, and that triggers off the ongoing feud between Lois and Francis that has probably been well put to bed by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it does a really good job of like feeling like its own original thing, bringing back the characters in a nice organic way and giving you all the stuff you want to see without it being like,
Too much.
for lack of a better term, Force Awakens-ish. Do you know what I mean? Like, is any of this like not like kind of like making sense to you, like, or?
No, see, it makes perfect sense. Like the difference between something, I think again, The Force Awakens made a bunch of money and kind of set the table for a lot of legacy sequels. But that doesn't mean it was right. That just means it was easy. Actually having a story to tell. And kind of picking up, going, look, here's what actually is going on. I mean, that's the difference. It seems like this was made for a reason. They wanted to just kind of be like, okay, and other than money, I mean, that's the obvious reason that people do most things like this. But, it's more like they wanted to do it and be like, look, well, what do we think actually happened? I love your Force Awakens thing because it's like, right, well, what happened? We don't know. Okay, well, what really happened? Well, buy the book. That we haven't written yet. You're like, okay, and that's the difference. It's less cynical. It's more like, okay, well, these characters lived a life and now we're dropping in 20 years later. That's cool. Like, that's how you do it. It's like naturally just lead to where these characters would go. And I mean, case in point, yeah, you can get your fan service, you can get your goofy stuff in, you can get your jokes in, blah, blah, blah. But case in point would be, when we got our fan service reboot, which was fully built on that, we still didn't get the three characters that everybody wanted to see together.
Yeah.
And if they had just naturally told a story, that probably would have just happened by the story just unfolding. It's like Han, Luke and Leia. Well, Luke's running his school. Han and Leia are married and they're teaching their 4 kids, depending on where you want to go. And it's like, yeah, they probably will just naturally run into each other. But instead they kind of manipulated, warped it, changed what the story was, changed the characters completely, just, what-sized, big elements of the universe. And it just fell apart. Here, they're like, well, yeah, what would Malcolm do? He probably would do that. It makes sense, and then, look, you can change certain elements. Some people would have different approaches on what they would have done. But overall, I mean, again, I haven't seen all of it, but from what I've heard and from what you described, it seems natural enough. It's just normal people living their normal life, reacting to an eccentric family,
Absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to kind of some of the new characters, because obviously, like, it shouldn't, like, I suppose it is gratifying to know that all the original cast, especially the kids, are still top-notch actors. There is a possibility they might have lost their edge a bit, but no, they're still completely on their game. Mm-hmm. But I want to give a shout-out to, like, the new characters. So, like, you've got Leah, who's, like, Malcolm's daughter talked about. You have Ellie, who's, like, their kind of, like, non-binary kind of, like, child, who's the youngest one, who is sort of, like, the organizer in the family, because they, like, kind of stop them all from fighting each other and kind of, like, they actually stand up for Hal against the rest of them and all that. And you've got, like, Malcolm's, like, new girlfriend, like, I'm just going to bring her name now, Tristan. And, like, I'd love to get your feelings when you watch it, because they come into it like they've always been there. They match the energy of the show really, really well. And it never feels like, I hate to keep going back to Star Wars, but it never feels like, say, this is the young version of this established character. They feel like their own people, but they also are on the wavelength of, like, again, where the other characters are at.
Yeah, again, though, that goes back to the fact that they had something to say. Like, it wasn't literally, look, again, I want to clarify what that means. It doesn't mean that they wanted to push a message. They literally had a story to tell and everything else was in service of it. With The Force Awakens, it was like, how can we make the most money possible while denigrating Lucas and the prequels?
I know. I still hate that first line of The Force Awakens.
Oh, I hate it so much.
To be clear, I don't hate The Force Awakens.
You should.
By any means.
You should.
You
should.
But it's just the best case example of, like, kind of ways to reboot these. I would put this Malcolm show more in the bracket of, like, Creed, where it feels familiar but different in a way that makes sense,
Yeah, and look, that's case in point, really, to be honest with you. Creed was great. Again, like, Creed didn't feel like this is young Rocky. It's like, no, the universe kept going. People keep living in it, and there's very few shows that do that. There's very few works that do that. It's like you do it in books, do it, right? Obviously, books do it, video games do it. For some reason, when it's a movie or when it's a TV show or something, it is very natural for them to go, let's just do fan service or let's just do this or and it's just like, okay, well, yeah, I get that. You kind of want it, but it's funny with the Star Wars example. I love that you brought it up because it does kind of work super well. Star Wars, the best Star Wars that you can see is not the movies. It's definitely not the TV shows. But it's the expanded universe stuff. Like I believe it to be Cult War 2, but for this discussion, have you ever played Jedi Knight 2? Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, right?
No, sorry.
So
I haven't. I will get to it.
No, it is phenomenal, right? But that whole series, what's interesting about those games is it's from a time before CGI or when CGI was very, very, very rough. But they're games, right? Mm. And what they did is, instead of like trying to use, really, really ropey CGI because they're like, this looks awful, they literally just shot AMVs where, they're just actors acting to different levels. Some actors are really bad, some are not. But it never feels like this is out of character. It never feels like this isn't in the world. It's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. The Empire has been beaten. There's some remnants around and the new Jedi Order are off doing things. It just feels like a natural pickup because it was. They weren't like, hey, we're just going to like, right, it's been like 6 years. What's everybody doing? And that's way more natural because you're not trying to shoehorn something in or you're not trying to, feather a nest. It's more just like, we had a story that we wanted to pick up. We're going to factor in everything that's here. And it just kind of flows. Like, look, even Star Wars, even in Star Wars with the prequels, some of that is kind of ham-fisted. But by the time you get to episode 3 and it all kind of links together, it's unbelievably good. I wish more, it comes back to storytelling. You can tell, you can have any kind of story you want. It can be about two people crossing the street to buy something in the shop and then come back, right? Millions of ways to tell that story. But they still have to cross the street and buy something in the shop and then come back, right? And that's it. And everything has to inform around that. But if you're not willing to do that, if you're like, no, instead of going to the shop, we're going to have someone else come in and he's going to go to the shop for them. And then they realize they don't want to go to the shop at all. You see what I mean? It's like, instead of just telling the story and making it the best version of the story that you can, they're like, no, we're going to bring in these other elements. And then that's how you end up with somehow Palpatine returned. Like, you know what I mean? So Malcolm in the Middle didn't do that. Yeah, fair play.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Obviously, 2 thumbs up for the Malcolm. Very impressed with that. I want to since we kind of talked about the sort of the more kind of creatively staged comedies, I want to talk very briefly about Big Mood. Have you heard of this one or seen this one?
Is this an Irish thing?
No. It's Channel 4. I mean, Nicola Coughlan and Niamh Cusack are in it, but it's not an Irish thing.
I'd never watched that, no. Go on.
No. So, Channel 4 comedy, which, by the way, Channel 4 still trailing as like the best channel for finding and creating original comedy. So basically, it's the second season of this show just finished. It stars Nicola Coughlan from, everything, and Lydia West from It's a Sin. And basically, this is a show where it's about 2 best friends, and one of them is like kind of I'm going to get the correct term now, struggling with bipolar disorder. And that's Nicola Coughlan. And the other character, Eddie, played by Lydia West, is struggling with grief because in the first episode, it's like it makes clear that her dad died and she's like inherited his bar. So it's a show that starts off as a weird offbeat comedy that sort of descends into being a drama. And this second season just finished, and the hook of this one was they had a big falling out at the end of series 1. Lydia West's Eddie went off to America. They've now bumped into each other again because they had to do bridesmaids things, having not talked for a year. And she has like fallen in hard with a sort of an American spiritual guru who's taken her money and like giving her all this wellness nonsense. And it's just a really, really funny and moving show because it's able to simultaneously have like these bonkers plots where they're trying to sneak into a party or like something like that. And sorry, we had sorry about that. while also having like episode 6 be a big dramatic confrontation about their feelings. Like episode 4 is also just Maggie, played by Coughlan, basically telling off her dad for the better part of the whole episode about being abandoned. So I'm not sure if you've got anything you'd compare it to, but it's kind of on this wave that kind of something like Malcolm might have started, where it's able to do something really, really silly while also treating kind of like tough topics sensitively. And I don't know if it's like, obviously, like it's hard not to compare it to stuff like Malcolm or even more recently like Derry Girls and stuff like that. But I'm really interested to see where this new kind of form of dramatic comedy is going, because as he kind of talked about earlier, there aren't really comedy shows that come out regularly anymore. So I'm intrigued to see if shows like this keep coming out and keep getting supported, because we could definitely like use more like that, you know?
Yeah, like I'm watching this now, and yeah, like the reason why I thought it was an Irish thing is because I have your one from like the Melt from Derry Girls, and then
Nicola Coughlan,
yeah, and then you have your one Lydia West. I mean, it's just not my thing. I mean, if people like it, that's great, but I just wish they'd get a bit more like creative with this stuff. It's like I don't.
Oh, but it is. You mean in general, not Big Moon particularly?
Yeah. It's just like it's kind of like. I think what's happening here is like the Derry Girls thing has set a weird precedent where it's like they do really good stuff, but it's just, I don't know. There's certain things I can watch and certain things I can't. And the overall Englishly Irishy thing where it's just, I just don't want to watch it. I just don't want to watch it.
Well, no, like Englishy Irishy thing. She's an Irish person living in England. It's not like an opposites attract type situation. It's just more about like, one is struggling with like mental health in a particular way because of bipolar, and the other is struggling with grief, and they're both trying to like each other, but they've got so many like spanners floating around in their heads that they keep kind of like hitting off each other in the worst way possible, but they're never both not sympathetic. You get me?
Oh, yeah, that actually could be pretty funny for sure. I don't know. But when something's based in Ireland or based in England, I just would rather it was based in America or Canada.
There's no shortage of stuff based in America and Canada.
As there should be. It's just better. It's just a better setting.
Have you seen America recently?
I know, but I just would rather.
Americans don't want to be in.
Yeah, but I do. So
no, I see what's going on here. You're trying to edge us back onto the hockey. I'm not having this. We're talking about Predator.
Predator. Can we talk about Predator?
All right, yes.
Can we talk about Predator?
Quickly, I'd like to talk about, because I know you want to do your letterbox at the end. Let's talk about Predator Badlands and maybe a bit of Predators, Killer versus Killers. So you saw this a few months ago. We've only just seen this on Disney Plus this week. Quick premise: it was the newest Predator movie. It was in cinemas in November. And rather unusually, this one is actually from the point of view of a predator who's like trying to kind of like finish whatever you'd call predator school.
It's the initiation of the watcher, right?
Yes, exactly. And he ends up on a weird misadventure with a synth from the Alien franchise who's missing her legs.
Yes.
And a Baby Yoda level, adorable, cute monster. And they all have to go on a quest together for him to avenge his family and for the rest of them to survive. Do you remember any thoughts on this one?
I loved it.
Me?
Genuinely, I really, really loved it. I mean, like, the Predator's such a weird mixed bag. It really is. Like, same with the Alien franchise. It has some, like, really cool, like, some of the best movies ever, and then just absolute wreck. But, I don't know, like, I really, really liked this movie. I really, really liked what they've done with Alien recently. Romulus was really, really good. Alien Earth was also very, very good. So
you saw it then. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. I watched it when I was coming back with the band from Poland. So I had a 4-hour flight on Disney Plus. So I was like, let's just go through this, Yeah, but I really, really like it. Prey was brilliant too. So it's from the director of Prey. And it's just one of those movies where, look, some people didn't like it, but I think that's just going to be the case with everyone. Like, whatever comes out, some people are going, but when something's legitimately great, I think it's important that you say it's legitimately great, even if you didn't like certain things in it. I was just like, it's extremely creative. I mean, look, the main character is a bit of a wuss, but that's his gimmick, right? That's what he's trying to overcome.
That's the point, though.
That's the point, though. Yeah. I mean, and some people are like, yeah, they're supposed to be badass. It's like, yeah, how do you think they got there? They got there through experience. It's like he's not. And it's maybe that upsets some people because they think the Predators are always supposed to be badass. But it's like, no, it's like we've seen that. I think I understand why some people didn't like it. There is like a school of thought where it's like, what would be cool if a Predator was dropped in World War II? What would be cool the Predator was dropped into ancient China or Japan. You know what?
We're going to get to that with Killer of Killers, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's what... Is that what that is? I haven't seen it.
Yes. Basically, Predator, it's a 4-part animated show set in 3 Earth time periods. But go on with the anyway about Badlands first.
Okay, well, all right. I did not know that. There you go. So, actually, the point I was going to make, that's a really cool idea as well. Right, obviously, like, I mean, they've clearly realized that it was a cool idea as well. But I think what makes a much more interesting film and story and something that you can actually build on long term are these other things where you don't humanize a Welcha because, like, they're not human, but you can kind of understand them a bit more and then see how they fit into this wider landscape. Because, like, the Welchas are not xenomorphs. Xenomorphs are just outright killing machines and they do not care. Yeah. They're just going to kill everything. The Ouches have like an honor system and it's always been like established. Even going back to like Predator 1, you know, he wouldn't kill people who are injured, you know, that kind of stuff. So it is like a really, really cool way to get a bit more of an insight into them as sentient beings and what their world actually means. I also really like the fact using synths. I think like they're not used enough and they're the most insidious figures in the whole Weyland-Yutani universe. Like anytime a synth shows up, you know it's a bad idea and it's always going to be a bad idea, but you don't really know why. And I really, really like that. No, for the first time, we actually have one that isn't genuinely terrible. Look, you could say maybe in Alien Romulus, her brother wasn't that bad as well, but...
Since they kind of learn empathy through experience,
exactly,
whether it's designed into them or not.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. But even still, it can be overwritten, which it was in Romulus, which is why I didn't bring it up. But like, with this one, it really seems that if a synth is broken, it actually can overcome it. But then again, the other synths are going to fight back into it. And there's some really, really cool action scenes, some really, really good moments in this. And look, I really enjoyed this when it came out. It's an old enough movie at this point, but it's definitely one of the best ones that you can watch. For sure.
Yeah, like and I appreciate the audacity of like basically having no one speaking English.
Yeah.
For the first 20 minutes or so. You never get that in movies. The only one I can think of recently that does it is like the first episode of Star Trek Discovery, like with its extended Klingon bits. And it's like, yeah, like well done respecting the audience enough to follow this. And then kind of like it paces all the reveals really, really nicely. And you know what? To answer your point, if you want Predators doing badass stuff as an alternative to this, Predator Killer of Killers. We don't have time to do a full review, but there's 3 episodes. One kind of set in like, you know, ancient like Scandinavia with Viking era type stuff. You have a Japanese samurai episode and you've got fighter pilots in World War II fighting an invisible predator. This is a beautiful show, by the way, as well. I know I kind of go all in on these sort of like animated shows.
But you know what's crazy though?
Really,
you know what's crazy though? Like, I did not know this. I didn't look this up and I literally guessed 2 of them.
Yeah, I've been gunning for a samurai Predator movie for ages.
Yeah.
I think that's such an obvious idea. I can't believe no one had done it until this point.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, it's like, well, that's cool, and actually this genuinely does look phenomenal, so I actually am excited to watch it. The thing about it is, it's like, I don't think it, and it's actually by the same director, I don't think it has much value outside of being like a cool thing, you know? It's just... give it a chance. The characters all kind of... I'm not going to try to give too much away, but the characters from those 3 all link up and go on a journey. And then they end up tying it into the other Predator films. Like, you know, it's not just fan service or showy stuff, you know? Well, no, what I was saying was, I don't think doing just this is enough, like, and holds as much value as people would think, because it does have a ceiling, right? But yeah, you can do it, but then at the same time, if you're not, like, look, this seems like they're trying to find this line between what happened in Alien and Predator when the humans team up with the Predator to fight the alien and how goofy that looked. And again, that's the goofiest movie I've seen in a while. I remember when it came out and everyone was like, so look, you don't have to do that. But what I'd say is, it's like, they need to find a way to keep this interesting, because if you go too far one way, it just becomes goofy. If you go too far the other way, you end up with Michael Myers. You know, you end up with like, or Jason, you know, in the latter Friday the 13th movies. But yeah, look, it seems like they know what they're doing here, and the franchise is in good hands. For me personally, I'm just going to I'm going to root for things that are a bit more unique, which is why I really, really, really liked Romulus.
Well, I would still consider this Killer of Killers to be unique, if nothing else, because the 3 Predators, these like 3 different protagonists go up against before all linking up in the finale.
That's cool.
All the Predators are real different.
Yeah.
They're really different designs. They have different ways of fighting and hunting. I mean, like the third one is in an invisible plane that is taking out like, you know, Japanese fighters over the ocean for seemingly the sheer delight of it. Like,
See,
you know, there's a lot.
that-
It has been well thought out, is what I'm saying. It's not just like stunt stuff.
No, exactly. And that's why, you know, again, it's from the same director. Everything that this guy has done with this franchise is well thought out. It serves a purpose. You know, like the first one, Prey, I mean, we didn't even know it was a Predator movie until it is.
So you got well into it.
And then you got well into it. And it's, you know, again, I thought Badlands was fun. Like, you're going in expecting one thing, you get another. Yeah, look, the animating stuff is cool. And I really do like animation myself. But I think, and it's more just a case with, you know, people who are, they want more of this. It's like, yeah, great. Let's do it all. You know, they don't need to just do one thing. Like, I think the Predator franchise has more legs than the Alien one, because the Alien one really.
I was about to say that. Yeah, I think actually, if you were to like make a little graph, in a weird way, because people are less precious about Predator, it's ended up accidentally more creative. Maybe Alien Earth tips the scales a little bit.
It does, yeah.
With Romulus.
But then again,
I would agree with that.
But then again, with Alien Earth, there aren't really that much aliens in Alien Earth. You know, it's more just about Weyland-Yutani.
It's creative.
Yeah, it's extremely creative. You know, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, ironically, it's funny how that worked out, and I love that analogy, Cian. It's by using the alien less, you get a better alien product, and using the Welches more, you get a better Predator product. That's insane.
Correct.
You know, it's because again, if you show the alien, you're like, well, it's not going to talk to you. It's not really going to think. It just wants to kill you and then lay its eggs in your body. That's all it wants to do, compared to the Ouches who are like, no, actually, I'm doing this because, one, it's probably really funny. Two, it's for the sport. Or three, because I'm actually trying to prove myself to everybody else who think it's funny or whatever. You know, it adds those layers, which you can actually do something with. You can't really do something with an alien that just wants to kill you, because that's all it does, you know? And it's wild that it took them 50 years to come up with that. But they got there. They got there.
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut across you there, but we only have 3 minutes left. I know you were quite keen on doing some comments.
No, we got some time. We got a bunch of time.
Okay. Well, my timer must be off then. Okay. So we have been gratified to know that we've got a lot of new kind of listeners and viewers, especially via YouTube and the shorts that Darragh has been making. And he's been keeping track of some of the comments. So I believe you've picked 3 for now, because if you comment, like, you know, we're not like a faceless organization. They go straight to us. So if they're kind, we'll read them and we'll acknowledge them. And we appreciate that. Would you like to read 1 or 2 of them now, Darragh?
Yeah. So again, thank you to everybody who subscribed to us on YouTube. Go to nerdtoknowmedia.com. Or Nerd to Know Media on YouTube, and you'll be able to, you know, subscribe there. As I said, the comments have really started coming in fast and thick, and we've got a bunch of subscribers. Last week was the largest growth of subscribers we've ever had. This week now has also been the largest growth of subscribers that we've ever had. So again, thank you so much. It's really cool that people are checking us out there. And it is, look, to be honest with you, it's the best way to contact us and get in touch with us is through this method. Because we can respond to them. Now, what I say, if you guys want to leave comments and have them read out, just make sure they're radio appropriate, and then it's fine. So there's a few, and they are actually on the Akira video, Cian. So
okay,
you know, I had said that I still don't understand Akira, right? So you know, I apparently I wasn't the only one, right? So our first comment comes from Hated NYC. It's actually from 4 hours ago. He said, quote, I've only watched it once, all caps, in my 20s during the mass consumption of films and rare TV shows. I'm well overdue. That's fair. I think that's when most people see it. Most people watch it when they're like, I need to watch all the things in the world. What did I not see? And that's when you watch Clockwork Orange. It's when you watch Akira. It's when you start watching Tarantino. You know, you go through all the hits, you find Ninja Scroll, and then you kind of pick which one you want to go to and obsessed with forever. So that's a really good comment. The next one is from Karasimi, right? So basically, all caps, Akira is what happens when the government ends up making the single most powerful psychic child ever to exist, and the child ends up nuking civilization. What happens next is a delinquent in a gang comes in contact with other government psychic children, and their powers end up awakening him as the new powerful psychic. He starts hearing the previously mentioned psychic child Akira, and slowly starts losing his mind. As time goes on, his powers are growing too strong, too fast, and he's already an unstable guy, and now he's given the power unmatched by even the military. His delinquent friend tries to stop him to varying results, but his powers ends up being too much and ends up in an eruption, like a nuke, and the movie ends. You know what?
That's a very good, succinct, like, I apologize if you haven't seen Akira, although, to be honest, you have seen Akira, even if you haven't. if you've watched South Park or Simpsons or anything, you've probably absorbed Akira somehow. Like, you know.
You know what though? That's the most succinct plot of that movie I have ever read.
Yes.
Fair play.
Very well put. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, Hated NYC drops in and says, look, appreciate the synopsis of the plot, but I believe they're talking about the subtext and ideas that aren't surface level. Yeah, that's true as well. We kind of were talking about that, but now
that is true, but I would argue the plot is so unintuitive that it makes you consider the subtext. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was a more conventional narrative, you would absorb the narrative. Like, I get where they're coming from, and they are correct.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is to some degree the intention of it, you know?
Yeah, and that's, as I said, like we were kind of talking about actually the beats of what happens, because you're right, like it's so inaccessible that the plot takes a back seat, and then you're forced to reckon with, what does this mean? You know, what are we? What is it living in a post-nuclear world like? What is it like when you come from a country that was nuked twice and now is building up, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's the same kind of thing as when you see Godzilla for the first time, like the OG Godzilla from the 70s, from the 50s. And then like, actually, Gojira -0 or -1 was one of those kind of similar thing where we went back to it, you know. But definitely one of those movies that make you think. Great comment. And we got one more, and this is my favorite one. This is from A3DX_007. Right, this is from a day ago. My dad rented me Akira when I was 8 because he thought it was Dragon Ball Z. He thought all anime. All anime was Dragon. Oh, let me try it again. So our next comment comes from A3DX_007 from about a day ago. My dad rented me Akira when I was 8 because he thought it was Dragon Ball Z. He thought all anime was Dragon Ball Z. Anyways, here we are 22 years later, and we're still totally traumatized by that ending. So
that's I think I got to see the Animatrix in a similar way.
So I got in a very similar way to that commenter. My dad rented me Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, not the censored one, not the one that you see now, the actual one. Because he was like, yeah, you like cartoons, and you know, I think Pokemon was around at the time.
Yeah.
And so there I am. I couldn't actually know. I think it was before Pokemon. He's just like, oh yeah, cartoons. Here you go. You'll like this. And like on the box, it's like 18s. Like it's never, like it was rated for what it is. And look, it's an incredible movie. I love that movie. The fight scenes are in it. The soundtrack's amazing. Bryan Cranston actually does a voice in that movie. He's,
everything's connected.
Everything is connected. He's the voice of Fei Long. He also was a bunch of villains in Power Rangers and Zordon in the movie.
Oh, I knew about that. Yeah.
But no, he's the voice of Fei Long. But also it has a very infamous fight with Vega and Chun-Li, preceded by an even more infamous, very uncensored scene that we cannot talk about at 5 involving Chun-Li in a shower. So probably shouldn't have watched that as like a 6-year-old or 8-year-old, but here we go. So wasn't traumatized by it, but definitely like shouldn't have watched it. But if I had seen Akira at that time, I think I would have been traumatized forever, because, you know, I saw Akira when I was 16, 15 for the first time. And again, yeah, it just sticks with you because you're just like, I have no idea what's going on here. I've never seen anything like this before. As you said, Cian, you're all right. Like, you know, we have seen a lot of elements of Akira because of Simpsons, the very famous parody in South Park with the Trapper Keeper.
Tracker Keeper, yeah.
Yeah, but when you actually sit down and watch it and you're just like, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And it is.
Again, you know, you've seen a bike slide sideways, you've seen Akira.
Yeah, for sure. But there you go.
You have, whether you think you have or not.
But again, guys, thank you so much for leaving your comments. We genuinely do appreciate it. They're super fun to read.
And if you don't want me saying, just before you finish up there, like the interesting thing about all 4 of those comments, particularly the middle 2 there, is that all of them are true.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it is a very confusing watch. You can follow the story, and, you know, you can follow like the plot in a very dense kind of linear way. Or you could sort of just absorb the subtext and sort of take in the atmosphere. But that's what like a good, dense piece of work should do, you know?
Absolutely. It's one of those, you know, obviously when the history is written, and it is very much like, this is the anime that started it all. But even still, I think every generation finds it. And when every generation finds it, they go back to the same conclusion of, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And that really is its legacy. Like, even though now there's so much more anime out there, like, you could just watch it for days. Like, there's no, but everybody goes back to it. Everybody watches it. It's just one of those movies that you watch it and it sticks with you. And the best example for it, it's like watching Twin Peaks. When you discover nobody is the same after watching Twin Peaks than they were before watching Twin Peaks. And the same with Akira.
I suspect we're well over time, so why don't you give us our outro?
So, folks, again, thank you so much for checking us out. We are Nerd to Know Basis here on Nerd to Know Media. If this is your first time checking us out, please go over, join the fun. You can comment us directly. There's also a bunch of content, so much content that sometimes we don't get to put on the show because we go over or whatever. A lot of wrestling content right now. We're going to work on some more this content so we can put that out. So if you want that, go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com, Nerd to Know Media on YouTube. Subscribe, say hey, and if you leave a comment and it's a good one, we'll put it on the mailbag because we want to do these mailbags more often. But I've been Darragh, and for Cian and everyone else on the team, we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.